Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, Fellow KGB. You can follow me on Twitter at the Fellow KGB. And it is Thursday night. We got a good game on tonight, the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. A little bit of a storm warning in that area, so I covered that game last night. If you want to check out my start-sit charts and see what I'm thinking there, I got all that updated here with a little note of the weather. But in tonight's episode, we're going to be looking at the start-sit charts for the rest of the noon games. We got 8 games to cover, and then I'll kind of we'll answer some questions after the noon games, and then we're going to look at some of the afternoon games. I think there's 3 afternoons, and then they're going to be the Sunday Night Football and the Monday Night Football, of course. So we're on the fantasyfellowship.com. Again, we already covered the Thursday Night Football last night. I'll just kind of cover that real quick again here. I think Matt Ryan and Teddy Bridgewater, those guys are both fringe quarterback ones for me in this one. I think they're more, better superflex twos and quarterbacks in 2 superflex leagues. You got Todd Gurley and Mike Davis. Both these guys are going to be RB1 status. I think it's going to be a sloppy game, a lot of handoffs, a lot of dump offs to the running backs. Christian McCaffrey's already been ruled out. They didn't activate him off IR in time, so he's not playing in this one, so you can safely leave him on the bench. The receivers, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, you got to kind of leave those guys in. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, kind of the same thing. These guys are the feature parts of the offense, so we might just want to limit our expectations a little bit, but I think I'm still going to start both assets on both teams here. Hayden Hurst, I'm a little bit nervous about. He did get shut down by the Panthers back in week 5, so I'm kind of on the fence about him. If you have a better option, I would consider doing that for sure. And then Curtis Samuel, we saw him get a touchdown last weekend. I'm interested in seeing what he can do. He's probably a really good bet for 3, 4, 5 catches in this one. It's going to be a lot of short area passing, I think, with all the winds and the rain. So we'll see what these offenses can do. I'm not really expecting pretty football tonight. It's probably going to be a lot of sloppy, quick little passes and dump offs, and we'll see who can make the bigger play or two. But looking at the Sunday games, there's going to be some weather affecting a lot of these games as well. But we're going to start here with the Patriots at the Bills. We got Cam Newton here. I just have him as a quarterback too in Superflex leagues. We should not be starting Cam Newton anymore in standard league. We just cannot trust what we're seeing from the Patriots offense anymore. And then we did see that Julian Edelman had a knee procedure today. He's going to be out. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, but he's probably not even worth holding on to in most leagues unless you have the IR spot and can afford to wait. But we really don't trust the passing game from the offense, so I've cut Julian Edelman in a couple leagues. But as far as the offensive weapons here, I mean, really, it's James White maybe in a PPR league as an RB2 flex. Maybe Damian Harris gets enough carries here. We don't really trust the Bills' defense at the moment. But looking at the fantasy points allowed to each position here, we see the only green matchups here are going to be the Patriots, allowing almost 25 points per game to the running backs. And then you got the Buffalo Bills here allowing almost 18.5 points to the tight end. So I'm kind of interested in targeting some of these positions. But again, I mean, there's a lot of red matchups here. I don't really think this game's going to be a very exciting game to watch on Sunday. Maybe you target, if you have Josh Allen, you do see that the Patriots are pretty good against the quarterback spot here, about 14 points per game. But I'm still going to trust Josh Allen as my quarterback 1 for sure. In a Superflex league, you're leaving him in there. But Josh Allen, kind of just a low-end quarterback 1, I think, in this one. We're going to see if Stephon Diggs can match up with Stephon Gilmore. But typically Diggs has been a wide receiver 1 this week, but I'm just lowering my expectations to a wide receiver 2. And then you got Cole Beasley here, who had the really big game last weekend, over 100 yards. He had 12 targets, 11 catches. I think this might be another Cole Beasley game where he's just going to be the preferred target, quick area field slot machine. So I like Cole Beasley as a wide receiver 3 for sure in Superflex leagues. And then I'm not really sure what to do with these running backs. Devin Singletary, Zach Moss. We see the Patriots do allow about 25 PPR points to the running back position, but we don't really trust these guys. I think Devin Singletary had about 54% of the snaps, and Moss had about 47% of the snaps last weekend. So it's almost looking like a 50-50 split here. So I can't confidently say I'm going to start one of these 2 guys as my RB2. I think they're both low-end RB2s at best, better flexes, but I do like the Bills' ability to be able to control this game and try to run the ball and see what happens. I think John Brown, he was a full practice participant in the last 2 days. So I'm open to John Brown as a wide receiver 3 flex. I think that could be interesting there. And then I think you got to start the Buffalo defense. This offense on the Patriots side doesn't really have much going for it at the moment. So I think we're going to roll out the Bills. The Bills are getting healthier on defense, so I'm into that. And then on the bench, Tyler Kroft, just a guy. You could stream him if you need the tight end. And then it looks like Gabriel Davis is going to be in the backfield or the background again if John Brown's going to be playing. So I'm not super excited to get Gabriel Davis in the lineup. But then, yeah, back to the Patriots side. Cam Newton, just a quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. I think James White, just kind of a really low-end RB2 PPR. You got to hope he gets some catches. He didn't get much work last weekend. So we, especially with Edelman out, we'll see what this offense can do. But I would imagine a lot of dump-offs to White. And then Damian Harris, if you really need a pinch at RB2 or flex, we do see Damian Harris continue to rack up, upwards of 10 to 12 touches per game. And the Bills, although they're actually pretty solid against the running back, it's about 23.5 points to the running back here. I mean, I could see Damian, if they get close, maybe we see Damian Harris kind of rack up some carries, or if they just decide to kind of run the ball and keep Josh Allen on the sideline, that could be interesting there. I don't think I'm that interested in starting the Patriots defense, but with Julian Edelman out, now you got Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers. There's really no confidence for me in any of these wide receivers. I think N'Keal Harry has been missing practice. We got Damiere Byrd and Jacoby Myers. These guys would probably be your best bets. So I'm pretty much just staying away from the Patriots offense as a whole. Looks like I got a question here real quick from Steven Drakes. Would you start Josh Allen or Teddy Bridgewater? Assuming this is 4-point passing leagues, I think I'm gonna lean Josh Allen in this one, just because we really don't know what to expect with the weather tonight. It doesn't look like it's going to be great weather for the game. We could see a lot of rushing and stuff, a lot of short area field stuff for each team. So I think I'm going to go with Josh Allen in that scenario. Thanks for the question. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans and the Cincinnati Bengals. This one's probably one of the more fun games of the weekend that I'm going to be having my eye on. And I think you have to take a stance on this game in terms of DFS if you're going to be setting some lineups. So looking at the fantasy points per game, we do see a fair amount of green matchups, only one negative red matchup here, and that's a fringe matchup too. So looking at the Titans defense here, they're allowing about 19.5 points to the quarterback, over 24 points to the running backs here, over 46 points to the wide receiver. So this is a group that we want to target. So that means Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, AJ Green, find a way to get these guys into your lineup. And then you got the Tennessee Titans allowing about 15.5 points to the tight ends. So I do think Drew Sample's a guy that you could whip out as a tight end 1 streamer. But you just look at this Titans defense, and it does not have anything amazing going for it. So on that other side of the ball here for the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow can be a quarterback 1. Joe Mixon's not practicing again today. So they have a bye week next weekend. I'm assuming Mixon's not going to play in this one. So I do like Giovanni Bernard as RB2 if Mixon's going to be out. And then I think you got to find a way to get Boyd, Higgins, AJ Green in your lineups for sure, and then contemplate Drew Sample if you need a tight end 1 streamer for the week. But then not starting either defenses in this one. Auden Tate, Mike Thomas, Joe Mixon, these guys are probably all going to be on our benches. On the other side of the ball here, the Bengals defense is allowing just over 19 points to the quarterbacks, kind of the same as Tennessee. Not great, but kind of below average. You got the Bengals allowing under 24 points to the running back here, which is actually pretty strong. So I mean, it's Derrick Henry, so you're not going to bench Derrick Henry. And then you got the Bengals allowing just over 36 points per game in PPR to the wide receivers, which is just middle of the road here. And then for some reason, the Bengals do allow a lot of points to the tight end. So almost 19 points to the tight end. I kind of like Jonnu Smith in this one. So there's really nothing that scares me in this matchup as far as good defense and good positions to target here. So on the Titan side of the ball, I think you got to continue rolling out Ryan Tannehill here as a quarterback 1. He's an excellent quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. We're not benching Derrick Henry. We're not benching A.J. Brown. I think Corey Davis has entered our good graces as a wide receiver 3. He did miss some time with COVID, but he came back last week, played a lot of snaps, caught the touchdown. I think he's going to be heavily involved in the offense again. And then Jonnu Smith, he's been that ankle's been kind of limiting him the last couple of weeks, but I think I'm going to continue to roll him out there as my tight end 1. As we did note here, the Bengals do allow almost 19 points to the tight end. So I do like Jonnu. And then the guys that I'm probably not trusting at all, but I'll keep an eye on some of these players is Adam Humphries, Anthony Firkser, Khalif Raymond, Jeremy McNichol. So this one's a pretty simple game. I think you got to start your studs in this one. Consider Drew Sample if you need a tight end 1 streamer. Make sure you get Corey Davis in there as your wide receiver 3 flex. And I don't know, enjoy this one. I think this one could be one of the more high-scoring games of the noon slate. So I think I'm going to be watching that one pretty closely for the most part. Moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. Let's take a look at some of the offense or the fantasy points allowed to the positions here. We have a lot of green matchups, no red matchups. So again, kind of like the Titans and the Bengals here. I think this is going to be a game that you're going to want to get some players in, especially in your DFS lineup. So both teams have green matchups against the quarterback. The Raiders allow just over 22 points per game, and the Browns about 20.7. So I do have them listed as quarterback twos. These guys are going to be fringe quarterback one in one quarterback league. So I think you can actually spot start either of these quarterbacks. I'm probably leaning towards Derek Carr, just because I like his passing weapons a little bit more. Baker's going to be without Odell Beckham, and he's just going to have to rely on his tight end, Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins. But I think both guys could be in for some solid games. I mean, Baker just threw 5 touchdowns last weekend, so we'll see if he can keep that momentum going. As far as the running backs here, the Raiders, this is a position that you really want to target. They're allowing just over 32 points per game in PPR to the running back. So I think Kareem Hunt, he's going to be a top 5, top 10 potential running back this weekend. Make sure I don't think anyone would be benching Kareem Hunt, but just make sure that he's locked and loaded and ready to go. Probably pop him in a DFS lineup if you play DFS. And then the Cleveland Browns here on their side, just under 24 points per game to the running back. But I think you're still going to start Josh Jacobs. He's kind of on the don't mess with your studs kind of list. So I could see Josh Jacobs falling into the end zone 1 or 2 times this weekend. And then both teams are really bad against the wide receivers. You see the Browns just over 48 points per game to the wide receiver position. And then you got the Raiders almost 40 points per game. So that's kind of why I like both quarterbacks. I think both receiving groups could have really big days. So on the Brown side, Jarvis Landry, he's going to be probably the leading target man probably for the rest of the season. So I think he's going to enter kind of slow and steady wide receiver 3 numbers. And then you got Rashard Higgins. This is going to be the guy that steps directly into the Odell Beckham snap counts and kind of yards and routes. So I think Higgins, he probably was the hot waiver wire pickup of the week in your league. Wide receiver 3 flex, and roll him out there. It's a really good matchup for him right away. So we'll see if he can keep his momentum going. And then you got on the Raiders side, Henry Ruggs is healthy, Nelson Aguilar is healthy, and Hunter Renfrow is a question mark because I think he could be a quick little slot guy that could rack up maybe 8 to 12 PPR points there for you. So Henry Ruggs, all it takes is one play for him to make our week. I mean, they are coming off of, I think they had the bye a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was last week, but he's going to be a big part of the offense, and they're going to try to force the field, some downfield stuff there. But they played Tampa Bay last weekend, so they kind of suppressed it. But again, the Browns allowing over 48 PPR points to the wide receiver. I could see Ruggs catching a deep bomb here. Nelson Aguilar is probably a little bit more of a safer wide receiver 3 flex play than Ruggs, just because he's a little bit more consistent with his targets and some of the short and middle area of the field stuff. And then Hunter Renfrow, he's just kind of a desperation wide receiver 3 flex option. I'm not starting either defenses in this one. And then don't bother with Jalen Richard, Devontae Booker, Bryan Edwards. We'll kind of just monitor that. I do want to look at the practice reports for each team real quick. So on the Cleveland side, looks like Myles Garrett's been questionable all week. He hasn't practiced in 2 days. Austin Hooper's still probably going to be out with his appendix. He did not practice in both days. Let's see here, any other offensive pieces. Jarvis Landry, he's been limited with a rib injury. And then it looks like David Njoku is full go. So nothing too concerning on the Cleveland side of things. Las Vegas's side, anything crazy here. Bryan Edwards has been getting some limited practice in, so we'll see if he can get back in. If he does play, I'm not going to be excited to start him or anything, but I'm going to monitor if he does play, we'll monitor his snap counts and his usage there. It looks like Josh Jacobs has been limited for 2 days with a knee injury, so nothing too concerning there quite yet. But overall, the offense looks pretty healthy there. They just would like to get Bryan Edwards on the field soon. So we'll move on to the Indianapolis Colts and the Detroit Lions. This is a game that I'm probably not very excited to watch on Sunday. The Colts have a really good defense. If you look at the fantasy points allowed to each position, the Colts have some really good numbers here. So a first overall ranking against quarterbacks, under 12 points per game to the quarterbacks. For the running backs, just under 19 points per game. That's 4th best. They do allow about 35.5 points to the wide receivers. So you're still going to probably roll out Kenny Golladay no matter what. And then for some reason, they're number one against the tight end here, about just over 5 points per game to the tight end position. So I'm a little bit nervous about TJ Hawkinson. If you do have a better option, I would recommend thinking about that, or maybe streaming somebody else. But what do we do with Matt Stafford? I have him ranked here as a quarterback 2. If you do have a better option to roll with as your quarterback 1, I would definitely recommend doing it. I don't really trust teams going up against the Colts. Technically, the Colts, when they play kind of a not so good team, they tend to shut down that offense. So I'm still not sure if the Lions are a good team yet. They have won a few games in a row, but really the only assets you want to rely on are Matt Stafford in a super flex league. Kenny Golladay, we're going to whip him out no matter what. But then TJ Hawkinson, I don't really trust him going up this really good defense. Only 5 points per game to the tight end. That's kind of too low. So I do think if you have a streaming option available, I would recommend looking elsewhere for points. And then DeAndre Swift. This team does allow just under 19 points to the running back, but Swift's been kind of the hot hand. So I kind of view him as a low-end RB2 flex. I'm probably not starting the Lions defense. Marvin Jones Jr., Adrian Peterson, Danny Amendola, Kerryon Johnson. I'm just not interested in getting teams going up against this Colts defense. And then on the Colts side of things, this is a pretty simple fantasy evaluation as well. I think Philip Rivers is just a quarterback 2 option in superflex leagues. You're going to want to get Jonathan Taylor in your lineup for sure. I think he has top 10 running back upside this weekend, so he's going to be an RB1 for me. I do have Trey Burton ranked as a tight end 1. But we do see here that this game features the 2 best teams against the tight end. So the Colts allowing just over 5 points here. The Lions about 7.5 points to the tight end. But we did see Trey Burton the 2 weeks before the bye. He was putting up some decent numbers with targets and receptions with Philip Rivers. So I think that might be a constant thing coming off the bye, especially off the bye, as Trey Burton gets healthier and just they get more exposed to what they want to do on offense. So I kind of like Trey Burton as a low-end tight end 1 streamer. He might even be available in your league. And if I had to pick one between Trey Burton or TJ Hawkinson, I'm probably going with Trey Burton. I think you got to play T.Y. Hilton if you got him. He's a wide receiver 3 flex. We don't really trust it. But we do see here that the Lions are allowing just about 29.5 points to the running backs, and then they are allowing about 41.5 to the wide receivers. So I do think T.Y. Hilton could be a guy that hits double digits this weekend. Could be a nice safe floor for him. You're going to start the Colts defense, I think, for sure. And then if you're really dicey, you want to start a receiver going up against the Lions, it could be Marcus Johnson. Michael Pittman Jr. might be back for this one. We don't want Jack Doyle at all. I don't think Mo Alley Cox is going to play. Maybe Zach Pascal, wide receiver 3 flex. Maybe Naheem Hines. We really don't trust these guys. So I think I'm just comfortable recommending the players that we have above here. I want to look at the practice reports for the Colts real quick, though. So Jack Doyle, he looks like he's been getting some veteran days off. And then Mo Alley Cox, no practice on Wednesday, but limited today. So we'll see what he can do tomorrow. We'll have to monitor the reports tomorrow as well to see what we're doing here. But it looks like Trey Burton did not practice Wednesday with non-injury. Full practice today. So the Colts are going to be okay with their tight ends, it looks like. But we'll move on here to the Vikings and the Packers. Let's take a look at the practice reports before we get into this one. So Minnesota, what are we doing with Dalvin Cook? We got Dalvin Cook here, questionable with the groin injury. He was limited in both days, but that's a good sign here, giving him a chance to suit up on Sunday. I don't see any other major. Adam Thielen looks like he logged some full practices. It doesn't say what he was injured with. But the Vikings are missing, some of their top cornerbacks here. Holton Hill, Mike Hughes. Looks like Chris Boyd's been limited all week. So the Vikings cornerbacks are going to be dinged up a little bit. And then looking at the Packers side of things real quick, they have a huge list of players here, but it looks like Mason Crosby might not play in this one. That's going to be his first career game that he's going to miss if he does miss. Aaron Jones, this is the other big name here, hasn't practiced this week with that calf injury. So I'm leaning towards Jamal Williams being an RB1, RB2 again this week for us. Cornerback Kevin King, probably not practicing. So I think it really depends on who Jair Alexander is going to cover, but you got to like both Vikings receivers in this one. And then I guess Mercedes Lewis is the other tight end here, not practicing today. But otherwise, it's the offense should be okay, just minus Aaron Jones, it looks like. So back to the start-sit charts. Looking at the fantasy points allowed to the positions, Vikings allowing almost 22 points per game to the quarterback, so you're starting Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings are allowing about 24.5 points to the running backs. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to see Aaron Jones this weekend, and if we did, it's going to be in a limited fashion. So I think it's going to be Jamal Williams being the must start of the group here. I'm probably going to move Aaron Jones down to the bench after tomorrow's practice reports. But Jamal Williams, check your waiver wires, see if he's available. He's going to probably handle another 20 touches in this one if Aaron Jones can't go. The fantasy points allowed to the receivers by the Vikings, not good. Almost 47.5 points to the wide receivers here. So Davante Adams, you're starting Davante Adams no matter what. But it's frustrating because we really don't have any other wide receivers to rely on here and take advantage of this matchup. But Davante could get 47.5 points himself against this team. And then I did want to note here, Alan Lazard has been practicing with this team. I think he on the list. I think they haven't designated him to return yet, so he's not showing up on the reports. But just check out your league and see if Alan Lazard has been cut, and if he's available on your waiver wire, he might be worth a stash in the IR spot for an extra week or two. But yeah, his return is really close, so that's exciting. And then the Vikings, the tight end, about 12 points. If you want to roll out Rob Tonyan here as your tight end one, I don't see anything alarming there for the matchup. But I do like the Packers offense here. It's going to be heavy Aaron Rodgers to Davante, a lot of Jamal Williams. Just basically these three dudes are going to move the ball, and we'll see if Tonyan and some of these secondary receivers can make some plays. On the offensive side of the ball for the Vikings, let's take a look at the Packers defense rankings. Packers allowing just over 18 points to the quarterback. Kirk Cousins is just a quarterback too in Superflex leagues. We're looking at the running back points now here. The Packers are dead last in points allowed to the running backs at 33 points per game to the running backs. So Dalvin Cook, if he plays, you're going to get him in. I'd be surprised if Dalvin Cook doesn't play at this point. He's been limited all week. So it looks like Cook's going to be in your lineup. If he were to miss, sure, you're gonna whip out Alexander Mattison in the matchup. The points allowed to the receivers, Packers are actually really solid here. They're just under 35 points per game, but I think you got to keep rolling with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen did take advantage of this matchup the first week of the year. And then with no Kevin King, I think Justin Jefferson could be a guy that makes some splash plays. Can't start the Vikings defense. You can maybe start the Packers defense in this one, I think. And then I'm going to monitor Irv Smith because I think he was kind of breaking out before the bye. We'll see if he continues to get the targets and gets the yards. Kyle Rudolph, no thanks. Alexander Mattison, no thanks. So Vikings-Packers, we'll see what the health of these running backs can do for us. Looks like we got a question real quick here from our guy, Baked Goldfish. Matt Ryan or Derek Carr? I do like Matt Ryan tonight, but the weather concerns me. I just want to scroll up here and look at my matchups here. So for some reason, the Panthers are really good against the quarterbacks, allowing just under 16 points per game to the quarterbacks. I know that the Falcons and Panthers played already this year, but it was without Julio Jones. But still, Matt Ryan did not get a touchdown in that one. He did throw a pick. I'm not feeling inspired to get Matt Ryan out there tonight. So I think I'm going to lean towards Derek Carr just because the weather should be better for that game. It's in Cleveland, but we do see that the Browns allow, just over 20 points per game to the quarterbacks. The receivers are getting healthy. You got Darren Waller, Ruggs, Aguilar. All these guys are kind of rolling right now. So I think I would lean with Derek Carr for tonight and just kind of stay out of tonight's game. Thanks for the question. Let's move on to we'll be quick about this one, but it's the Jets and the Chiefs. On the Jets side of the ball, Sam Darnold's a quarterback too in Superflex League. If your quarterbacks are complete garbage, you need to start someone. I suppose you could whip him out there and hope for 10 points. The two bright spots are going to be the rookies here, Denzel Mims and LaMichael Pirine. I think if you needed help at the receiver position, you could add a guy like Denzel Mims. He had 7 targets, 4 catches for 42 yards last weekend. The offense was trying to get him the ball, and they don't have much to look forward to the rest of the year. They're going to try to get these rookies ready to go for next year. So I think Denzel Mims should be owned in pretty much all leagues, especially PPR leagues. So I have him as a low-end wide receiver 3 flex. We did see LaMichael Pirine get the goal line carry for the touchdown last weekend. So I think Pirine is going to be more and more involved as the season goes on. He's got the opportunity to get some PPR points as well with the catches and upwards of 10 to 12 carries. So I think Mims and Pirine, those guys are potential flexes. We're not trusting Frank Gore, Rashad Perriman. I don't think we're going to see Jamison Crowder in this one. Herndon, there's nothing here that you want. So I'm only thinking it's the rookies, and we'll see what they can do. On the Chiefs side of things, this one's probably going to be like a mini walkthrough for this offense.
So Patrick Mahomes, he's a quarterback one. I did rank Clyde Edwards-Helaire as an RB2 just because I think we're going to see a good amount of Le'Veon Bell in this one. So if you do have Le'Veon Bell, please make sure you get him in your lineup going up against his former team here. I think it's going to be a really fun game for Le'Veon Bell. It wouldn't surprise me. He's probably going to score a touchdown. It wouldn't surprise me if he got two, maybe more, who knows? But it's the revenge game. So make sure Le'Veon Bell is in your lineup as RB2 or a flex. Of course, Clyde Edwards is going to stay in your lineup. Tyreek Hill staying in your lineup. Travis Kelce staying in your lineup. But then what do we do with guys like Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman? I have them listed as flexes because if you guys are in a pinch, or if you have, say you have like Will Fuller or some of these other players that are on bye, and you need someone to pick up off the waiver wire here, maybe Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman. These are guys in a really good matchup where they could score a touchdown. You never know. So that's why I got them there listed as flexes with a question mark. If you wanted to play the lottery here, go ahead and start the Chiefs defense if you got them. I don't know when Sammy Watkins is going to be back, but we're watching his return. DeAndre Washington did come back last week, Byron Pringle. But yeah, man, just start your Chiefs. We've probably talked too much about this one already. So Jets, Chiefs, Le'Veon Bell revenge game. I'm going to enjoy this one. The Rams and the Dolphins here. Tua Tagovailoa's first start. So exciting. So we're going to look at the fantasy points allowed to the positions here. This is actually a kind of a tough game for Tua to get his first start against. You see a lot of red matchups here, especially on the Rams side. They were only giving up about 16 points to the quarterback. To the running backs, they're giving under 22 points per game to the running backs. To the receivers, they're the second best, just 28 points per game to the wide receivers. And then for some reason, they're kind of weak against tight end, about almost 15 points to the tight end. So I think Gesicki might be in for a good day. But just looking at this offense, Tua Tagovailoa, if you've snagged him in a one quarterback league, I don't think it's wise to whip him out there in this one. And if he's in a super flex league, that's maybe where you're more inclined to get him in as your number two. But then you got Myles Gaskin here. I'm not sure how this offense is going to look with the quarterback, but I guess in a PPR league, you can kind of whip him out there as your RB2. But he's probably more of a flex play, I think, in this one. I do want to look at the practice reports because I noticed Devontae Parker was limited. He might not even practice. So we got Devontae Parker down here, questionable with the groin injury, limited and limited. So if he logs another day tomorrow of limited, I think he's going to be okay to go. But Devontae Parker is probably going to be drawing coverage from Jalen Ramsey. So I might even move him down here to wide receiver 3 or even to a flex. I don't really have a lot of confidence if he's coming in banged up with a groin injury. So I'm a little bit nervous there. So if Parker plays, that means Preston Williams might be the guy that gets a lot of targets. And then I guess the whole thing that I'm thinking about with this Dolphins offense, now that it's Tua time, we have to watch and see where the targets are going from Tua. Because if they're going to throw the ball 25, 30 times a game, I'm really curious to see, okay, does Preston Williams get more targets than Devontae Parker? Does Myles Gaskin get the same amount of volume that he was getting from Ryan Fitzpatrick? Does Mike Gesicki get more consistent volume going forward? We don't really know. So I'm kind of taking a cautious approach with this one with Tua and then just the tough defense for the Rams. But I do think Mike Gesicki should be in your lineups. We did note here that the Rams, that's the worst part of their defense, allowing almost 15 points to the tight end. And then I think Preston Williams, if Parker plays, he's going to draw Jalen Ramsey, I would assume, for the most part, leaving Preston Williams with the more favorable matchup. So I'm kind of interested in Preston Williams as a low-end wide receiver 3 flex there. And we got some guys on the bench here that we're not really interested in. Not going to start the Dolphins defense. On the Rams side of the ball here, let's see what the Dolphins defense is doing. So the defense is actually decent for the Miami Dolphins. About 17 points to the quarterback spot here. I think Jared Goff's just a quarterback 2 in Superflex for me. The Dolphins do allow a good amount of points to the running back. So just over 27 PPR points. I think you got to continue starting Darrell Henderson as you have been doing. And then Malcolm Brown, he's a low-end RB2 flex, and he got the touchdown again last weekend. He's on the field a lot for passing downs. I don't think he caught a pass last week, but he's on the field a lot. So I like both Henderson and Malcolm Brown. We'll see what they can do. The Dolphins against receivers, they're kind of middle of the road here, just under 36 points per game. So, of course, you're starting Woods, you're starting Cooper Kupp. No questions with those guys. And then the Dolphins are actually really good against the tight end, just over 8 points per game here. So I don't believe Tyler Higbee is going to be playing in this one. So if you need help at tight end, maybe Gerald Everett. He did catch the touchdown against the Bears, which was a tough matchup. So maybe if you're one of those guys where if you have TJ Hawkinson or something, I think I might even say I'll I'll give Gerald Everett a shot in this one, and we'll see what he can do. But then I did notice Josh Reynolds had a really good game the last 2 weekends. I think he's scored in back-to-back weeks. Cam Akers, he's just completely disappeared in this offense, so we can't trust him. He might even be droppable at this point. I think the only way Cam Akers is going to get on the field in any meaningful snaps is going to be if there's an injury to Henderson or Malcolm Brown. So in Dynasty, sure, you hold him. But redraft league, I just don't think it's happening for Cam Akers this year. And then same with Van Jefferson. He probably isn't on a lot of teams in redraft. So we'll see what these rookies can do maybe towards the end of the season. I just want to look at the practice reports real quick for the Rams. We did look at the Dolphins here. Everything looks okay. LA Rams. Tyler Higbee got a limited practicing with that hand injury today. So I'm going to monitor this and see if Higbee is going to be a full go for the game. But if Higbee can't play, I do like Gerald Everett as a streamer. Just a couple of receivers banged up here. So moving on, I think this is the last noon game here, and then we'll answer some questions. But we got the Steelers and the Ravens. This is probably one of my other favorite games of the noon slate here. Let's look at the defenses and what they allow to quarterbacks here. Steelers about 15 points per game to the quarterback. That's a top 5 defense here. It's going to be tough for Lamar Jackson, but I want to actually show you guys a cool. There's a website called StatMuse. Let's just go to this website real quick. So you can actually type in, if you're curious about how Lamar Jackson has been against the Steelers in the last 2 games, you're just going to type in your player. You just type in Lamar Jackson versus Steelers, and then I'm going to type in the word game logs, and it's going to tell me what he's done in the last 2 games against the Steelers. So I guess let's see. In October last year, 19 to 28 passing, 161 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. So not a great game from Lamar Jackson last year against the Steelers. In 2018, it looks like he only played 1 game against this team last year. So 2018, nothing really happening here. So this might actually be a tough game for Lamar Jackson. I should probably almost move him down to a quarterback 2 in Superflex. But if you have Lamar Jackson, you kind of have to start him. You drafted him high. Just keep rolling with it. I wouldn't be too worried about this. I think he's got the rushing upside with his legs to at least secure a decent floor for you. But the Steelers are also really good against the running backs here. 16.4 points per game to the running backs. That's the best in the league. They also are pretty good against tight ends, just under 9 points to tight ends, about sixth in the league here. So I don't know. This is not a good matchup for the Ravens. The Steelers do allow about 40 points to the wide receivers. So if there's any player on the Ravens that I think might be kind of worth the play, it's going to be Marquise Brown. He should be able to get open and deep a little bit in this one. But it's going to be a tough sledding for Lamar Jackson. It's going to be tough for Mark Andrews. And we don't really know what's going on with the running backs. I don't think Mark Ingram practiced today. If you are a Mark Ingram owner, yeah, we do see that Mark Ingram hasn't practiced all week. So I'm thinking he's not going to play in this one. So what do we do with J.K. Dobbins? What do we do with Gus Edwards? I'm kind of just leaving both these guys on my bench. I'm kind of fading the Ravens this weekend. I kind of want to see what happens first before I trust these guys going further. The Ravens are coming off a bye, so they're well rested. So that's why I think you have to continue to start Lamar Jackson in 1 quarterback leagues. You're going to get Marquise in the lineup, and I think you got to roll out Mark Andrews. Even though it's a tough matchup, I think good things could still happen. And then I'm still starting the Ravens defense. That defense is still pretty good. On the Steelers side of things, looking at the Ravens defense, about 19 points to the quarterback here. You're still starting Ben Roethlisberger. The fantasy points to the running backs, the Ravens are about 20.5. So I still think you're starting James Conner. It's a tough matchup, but I think you got to do it while Conner is healthy. The Ravens against the receivers, they're actually really good here, just under 33 points per game to the receivers. And then to the tight ends, they're about 14 points here. So the tight ends are pretty they allow a decent amount of points to the tight end. So I do think Eric Ebron could be a spot starter this weekend. But we did note that the running back points and the receiver points are strengths of the Ravens defense. But I still think I'm going to start James Conner as a running back 2. And then what do you do with Juju, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool? I almost believe that all 3 of these guys should be ranked as flexes. I mean, you can bench them if you have some really good options behind them, but I think they're all going to be ranked as wide receiver 3 flexes. And I think the strongest play of the group is going to be Ben Roethlisberger, just because all the receivers are healthy. I really don't know whose day it's going to be, but I think if you have Juju, you're probably going to leave Juju out there just because it's Juju. You spent a high pick on him. Deontay Johnson's coming off a really big game, and Chase Claypool has had some big games himself. So I think all three guys deserve to be in your lineup. And then we'll monitor James Washington, Benny Snell, Vance McDonald, Anthony McFarland. But this game is going to be a really fun one just to watch in general with fantasy football aside. So it looks like we're at the afternoon games. I did say I'm going to kind of take a break here, and we'll answer some questions here in the chat room. So it looks like we got our guy Samson Julius here. Trey Burton or Hunter Henry as your tight end one. So let me just look at, because we're just going to be talking about the Chargers game here. I do have Hunter Henry listed as a tight end one start. And the Broncos are allowing about 12.5 points to the tight end. I think I'm okay with, you want to kind of be connected to Justin Herbert at this point. He's playing such good football. I think he threw 3 touchdowns to the tight ends last weekend. Was it 2 or 3 touchdowns? And then none of them to Hunter Henry. So maybe it's one of them's coming, I think, this week. We did note that the Trey Burton and the Colts going up against the Lions. For some reason, the Detroit Lions, man, they are second in points allowed to the tight ends, just about 7 points per game to the tight end. So I think I'm going to lean with Hunter Henry in that one. Just go with Herbert, go with the better numbers there. Thanks for the question. Looks like we got a question from Charlie here. Start Lamar or Teddy Bridgewater? Only reason I'm considering is Carolina's matchup. Yeah, Carolina does have a great matchup, and when they played in Week 5, Teddy Bridgewater threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns on this team. But the weather tonight, I'm just kind of curious what's going on in Charlotte right now. See if that rain has passed at all. So let's just take a look at weather.com. We'll click on hourly. So tonight's game, it starts here. Where's the hourly? So right about now, it's actually not going to be that rainy. It looks like it's going to be maybe 50% chance around 9 o'clock, but it's probably not going to be as sloppy as everyone thinks. But you see the wind here, 10 to 12 mile per hour winds. It's actually not going to be as terrible as I thought it was going to be. So I think I'm going to lean. With Teddy Bridgewater. If you're feeling risky and you kind of want to get some points in, we do like. That the offensive matchups for the Panthers in this game. You see that the Falcons' defense is just garbage. We got all these green matchups lighting up really green here. Falcons are allowing 27 points per game to the quarterback. I think I'm going to roll with Teddy Bridgewater. The Lamar Jackson offensive stats here. I don't know if you were in here when we pulled this up, but last year against the Steelers, Lamar Jackson 19 of 28. 161 yards, 1 touchdown, but he also threw 3 picks. And he was sacked 5 times. So the Steelers might have something up their sleeve from Lamar Jackson in this one. So I think I'm going to say Teddy Bridgewater, and we'll cross our fingers that the weather isn't too crazy out there. Yep, Lamar plays Pittsburgh. Matt Ryan, here we got a question from Andrew says the weather looks good for ATL Carolina. Yeah, man, it does look okay. Matt Ryan, Burrow, or Teddy? Okay, so this is going to be a fun one here. I'm curious. We'll go to FF Today here. So this is our boy Drew here asking the question, Matt Ryan, Joe Burrow, or Teddy Bridgewater? So I'm just kind of filtering some numbers here, and we're going to see what the best matchup is. So, of course, the Falcons are dead last against the quarterback here, about 27 points per game to the quarterback. Joe Burrow plays the Titans. The Titans are not the greatest against the quarterback. They're allowing almost 20 points per game here. They've allowed 15 touchdowns, and they have picked the ball off 9 times, but allowing a lot of yards, not a lot of rushing yards. But I do think the Titans have a good matchup here, and I do like the options for Joe Burrow in the passing game. And then Carolina, for some reason, Carolina's actually got a decent defense against the quarterbacks. Where did I see the Panthers? So the Panthers are just allowing under 16 points per game here. So I don't think I'm starting Matt Ryan. If your options are between Teddy and Joe Burrow, I might even just be okay with waiting for Joe Burrow on this one. Let's just see what Joe Burrow's been up to the last couple games. That team is just going to keep throwing the ball. I don't think Joe Mixon's going to play, which means even more passing. Joe Burrow, through 7 games, he's got freaking 2,000 yards, man. And hopefully some more touchdowns coming his way. But the dude's been playing some good football. It looks like he's got a floor here of about 15 to 16 points, but he could get 3 to 4 touchdowns on this one. I think that Tennessee Bengals game could be kind of a barn burner, both teams in the 30s. So I'm thinking I'm going to recommend Joe Burrow in this one. So I need help. Who should I start here? So from Thunder, YT, I need help. Who should I start at flex? Jonathan Taylor or DJ Moore? So we kind of just looked at the weather. The weather shouldn't be too bad of a problem tonight. I do think DJ Moore's got a much higher ceiling than Jonathan Taylor, but if you want to play it safe, Jonathan Taylor has a really good matchup going up against the Lions. Let me just look for those numbers real quick. So the Lions are allowing almost 30 points per game to the running back. I think Jonathan Taylor is guaranteed, 15 to 20 touches in this one. We don't really think of too much about the Colts passing offense, so I think they're just going to lean into Taylor. They're coming off the bye, so maybe they try to get him more involved as the season progresses. So I think it's a matter of your risk, how comfortable you are with your risk. Jonathan Taylor is going to be safe for probably, 10 to 15 points. I think DJ Moore also has a nice high floor of 8 to 10 points, but he also has the potential to get over 20. So safe play, Jonathan Taylor. If you want to risk it tonight, go DJ Moore. Oh, so it's a 6-point TD. So Teddy, otherwise Joe Burrow, in my opinion. If it's 6 points, I think I would lean. I think I'd go with Teddy then. I don't know. Let's see here. So the reason I want to maybe start Lamar is because if you look at how Lamar played after his bye in 2019, he demolished the Patriots and played well for the next few games. And Pat Steve last year was crazy. Yeah, I can't fault you if it's so hard to sit Lamar. I mean, he's the former MVP. He's coming off a bye. They could be really fresh here. Maybe the Steelers are a little bit banged up on defense. They don't have Devin Bush anymore, too. So I don't know. That might answer the question. I think I would just roll with Lamar. But yeah, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater could be kind of fun tonight. I'm a huge Teddy Bridgewater fan. I have him in a lot of best ball leagues, and he's actually one of my best quarterbacks in my 7-0 team that I got rolling on right now. So I am a big fan of Teddy, but I do have it's going to be tough to sit Lamar, I think, this weekend. So if you want to just kind of watch the game tonight and just roll with Lamar, I wouldn't blame you. And then we got another question here. Who do you think will draw Butler? T. Higgins, AJ, or Boyd? I would assume Malcolm Butler is going to get AJ Brown or AJ Green. My bad. Tyler Boyd's he's going to be the safe one. That I know Tyler Boyd's going to be in the slot. I don't think he's going to get too much coverage on Malcolm Butler, but I think AJ Green and probably T Higgins will see a little bit both. But because of just the savviness of AJ Green, I can see Malcolm Butler sticking around with him. And both players are kind of older. So I think that's a better matchup for Butler. But I really like T. Higgins in this game. I like Tyler Boyd a lot too. And then AJ Green's kind of the 50-50 flex call, I guess you can say. We'll see if he can get a touchdown finally for the first time this year. So any other questions going on tonight? I think I'm gonna kind of just dip into, what time is it here? It's 6:45. I'm kind of just going to cover quickly some of these afternoon games here. We got the Chargers and the Broncos. I mean, if you have Justin Herbert, I think Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback play this weekend. The Broncos are allowing about 20 points to the position here. And then a crazy stat here. If you look, at the moment right now, Justin Herbert's kind of been a cheat code. So if you filter by fantasy points per game, I mean, you got Justin Herbert scoring the 3rd most points per game for quarterbacks, almost 25 points per game. So it's pretty remarkable what he's been doing. So I think a lot of the answers for me, if you guys ask questions, I'm going to say Justin Herbert's probably going to be the guy that gets the most. So here we got some other questions in here. So projected to get 50 points more. And I just got DJ Moore. I'm just going to start him and see how it goes. I mean, DJ Moore's been hot. Like he's got 93 yards in the last 3 games. All of a sudden, he's catching touchdowns. And if we're worried about the weather, DJ Moore is kind of that quick area of the field, kind of slants. And DJ Moore is great with yards after the catch. I think DJ Moore is actually a safer play tonight than Robbie Anderson. So I know the downside of DJ Moore is probably 8 to 10 points. But I think just because we've seen him pop off for 2 touchdowns last weekend, a touchdown the week before, I think DJ Moore is starting to play some of his best football right now. So also, do you think Crowder will draw Matthew? Might flex him if he's healthy. So I just want to check the practice reports here. I don't think Jamison Crowder is going to play. So Jamison Crowder, So he got a limited practice in today with the groin. We'll see if he can. If he doesn't have any setbacks tomorrow, he should be limited. So I would imagine. I mean, Crowder's assuming this is a PPR league. You can whip Crowder out there as a wide receiver 3 flex. I think he should still be okay. I know Matthew's a great player, but Darnold's kind of got eyes for Jamison Crowder, so I could see Crowder at least hitting double digits in PPR leagues in this one. And then rest of the season, Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. I'm going to say Justin Herbert. Have you guys? I'm a really big fan of just looking at schedules. And if we look at the Chargers schedule coming up, it is pretty sweet. So let's see what we got here. So they just played Jacksonville. That was part of it. Then they got Denver, Las Vegas, Miami, the Jets. Buffalo's defense, we're still not really sure if they're a good defense. New England, we're still on the fence about their defense as well. But then for the fantasy playoffs, you get Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Denver. I don't really see a lot of setbacks on this schedule. So I think it's going to be Justin Herbert for me the rest of the season, especially just because Austin Eckler's also coming back here. So this offense, I don't even know if we've seen the best of what this offense can be. So I'm really excited for the Chargers. And I think Justin Herbert's a top 5 QB option probably the rest of the way, as long as he keeps playing the way he's playing. So I guess as we talk about the Chargers side here against the Broncos are, they're decent on defense. They don't allow a lot of running back points here, but they're kind of average against the receivers, kind of average against the tight end. So I'm going to continue to start Keenan Allen. I'm going to continue to start Hunter Henry. And then Mike Williams, he's kind of the boom bust guy. If you're feeling like you can, risk it with Mike Williams, potentially getting 1 or 2 catches. I just want to see more consistency from him going forward. So he's a kind of a dangerous flex option. Let me get a drink of water real quick. And then what do you do with the running backs? Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly are kind of like a 50-50 split right now. I think Justin Jackson can be a low-end RB2 in PPR leagues. And then we'll see what Josh Kelly can do. But the one strength of the Broncos' our defense is going to be against the running backs here. So just under 18 points. Sorry, I got something in my throat. Looks like we got another question real quick here from Charlie. Thoughts on Trey Burton? Do you think he's a one-hit wonder or Rivers' new favorite target? I think he's going to be one of the most targeted players for Philip Rivers as the season goes on. Sorry. So Trey Burton, it sounded like before he got injured this year, there was going to be a lot of it sounded like they had big plans for him. So in just 3 games here, he looks like he's got, 16 targets? So 5, 5, and 6. So 16 targets. I think this is going to be his floor every week, I think. And then he's probably going to be in that, 4 to 5 catches every week. So he doesn't really have a big yards after catch ability or anything like that. But I mean, if he hits 8 points a week as a tight end 1, I think I'm okay with getting, if that's a bad game, 5 for 33, I think I'm going to take those 8 points as my tight end 1. And then there's going to be those games where he does get a catch, for a touchdown or maybe a wildcat touchdown pass or some crazy shit like that. So I do think Trey Burton's got tight end 1 upside the rest of the season. And just because, Philip Rivers, he's never really had the arm to be consistent with the wide receivers on the outside, I suppose. But he's always going to hit those running backs. He's always going to hit those tight ends, and especially at this point of his career. So I've been in one of my most important leagues. I've been stashing Dallas Goedert in the IR. And then I do have Trey Burton. I also picked up Albert Okwuegbunam for the Denver Broncos. And I think I'm starting Trey Burton this weekend, even though it's a tough matchup. So thanks for the question there, Charlie. Back to this offensive Chargers game here. You're starting Herbs. You're starting Justin Jackson as RB2 in PPR. Keenan Allen, of course. Hunter Henry. And then consider Mike Williams, Josh Kelly. I'm not excited to get these guys in my lineups, but maybe we'll just monitor them. And I think you got to start the Chargers defense. Monitor Jalen Guyton. Jalen Guyton could be if you're in a desperation mode and you're hoping for a bomb touchdown here, it could be, a 70-yard and a touchdown, or it could be a 1 for 5 kind of day for Jalen Guyton. On the Broncos side of things, I'm not really excited about this Broncos offense, but apparently they've been telling Drew Lock to start checking the ball down more, hitting the open guys, just taking the 5-yard play, looking for Jerry Jeudy a little bit more. So Drew Lock's just going to be a quarterback 2 in Superflex for me. Melvin Gordon is going to be an RB2 in Superflex for me. Let me look at the practice reports said that Philip Lindsay did get a limited day back with the concussion injury. So it looks like Philip Lindsay is trending towards playing, which if he does play, that's going to knock Melvin Gordon down to flex for me. So I think Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay would both be flex options. Let's see if Noah Fant got a limited day in. So Noah Fant got a full practice in today. It looks like he's going to be full go. So I'm going to get rid of the question mark. He can be a tight end 1 option. I think you got to start Jerry Jeudy as a wide receiver 3 flex if you got him, just because Tim Patrick's probably not playing this weekend. Tim Patrick hasn't practiced in 2 days. So who's going to be the leading receiver for this team? Is it going to be Fant? Is it going to be Jerry Jeudy? Is it going to be Albert O? Who knows? I think we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets from this team the rest of the season with both these monsters out there. Maybe it's a KJ Hamler kind of game. I don't know. There's just so many unknowns with this offense right now where I don't really feel comfortable recommending getting your Broncos in there. And we're not going to trust the defense. No Royce Freeman, no Deshaun Hamilton. It's just kind of a hot mess for the Broncos right now. So we got our boy Drew here. So I'm hesitant on who to start, Ryan, Teddy, or Burrow. I feel like Ryan might do bad. What do you think? Well, let's take a look at what Matt Ryan did against the Panthers the last time here. So I think it was week 5. Matt Ryan comes. It was his worst game of the season. So 21 of 37, 226 yards, no touchdowns, an interception. But this game was without Julio Jones. So that really could change quite a bit of things here. They only scored 16 points in that game. And it was just, I think that was the game where I think that was the one where they decided to fire Dan Quinn. So I think the energy of that team was just kind of like whatever. But who knows? I think if anything, you're probably looking at a game like this against the Chicago Bears, where he throws for over 200 and a touchdown. He might get like 285 yards. So I think his floor is probably in this 12 to 14 point range. So I'm not really excited to get Matt Ryan. So I think we're going to say no Matt Ryan, but it's going to be between Teddy and Joe Burrow. So let's take a look at what Teddy did the last time here. And Teddy's actually, he played pretty safely. So I think the safest play of those 3 quarterbacks is going to be Teddy Bridgewater. Now this game was in Atlanta in the Dome. So 27 of 37. 313 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, not a lot of rushing stats, but he puts up 20 points. So if you think he's going to throw, somewhere in this 250 to 300 yard range, maybe you're looking at a game like this where he throws for 254, 2 touchdowns, add some points here on the ground. Maybe that 18 to 20 point range could be for Teddy. And then with Joe Burrow, I really don't know what his range of outcomes will be, but he's got the team excited and he's just throwing for a lot of yards. Last week, 406 yards, 313 the week before. He's got this range of about 16 to 32 points as a ceiling. So maybe Joe Burrow's a little bit more wild here. Just take the points with Teddy, I think. So it looks like the weather isn't going to be that much of a factor as everyone thought. I was reading 20 to 25 mile an hour winds this morning, but it looks like it's down to about like 10 to 12 mile per hour winds. So we're just kind of moving along here. Saints and the Bears. I think we got to monitor Allen Robinson's practice report. Oh, I did miss another question here from Charlie. So do you think it's safe to start Thielen? He did draw Jair Alexander in the first game. I think Jair kind of locked him up for most of the game, and then Thielen kind of got his stuff in garbage time. So Thielen is kind of a risk. Do you have it's really tough to sit Adam Thielen just because he's been catching touchdowns. So you'd have to have like a stud behind him for me to consider benching him. So I guess Charlie, who would be like your receiver that you would maybe start over Adam Thielen? Just out of curiosity, if Charlie's still here. If you guys got any more questions, we got a few people watching in the chat room, YouTube, Facebook. We'll answer. I'll probably stay on another 5 minutes here, and we'll get some answers in here. I'm just looking at practice reports right now. Allen Robinson hasn't practiced for 2 days with a concussion. We're going to see if he can get a limited day in tomorrow. If he does not practice tomorrow, I'm really nervous about A-Rob, and I think that's going to be a big Jimmy Graham kind of day. So if you have Jimmy Graham, I would strongly consider getting Jimmy Graham in your lineup. And if Robinson cannot go, I think it's going to be Darnell Mooney, Anthony Miller. These guys should be wide receiver 3 flex considerations. We do see that the Saints, we think they're a really good defense, but they have been allowing a lot of quarterback passing points here. So Nick Foles, maybe he's wheeling and dealing with these 3 players here. They don't allow a lot of running back points here, so I'm a little less excited about David Montgomery. But I do think Montgomery should be started as RB2. You could probably start the Bears defense in this one, even though it's a tough matchup. And then nothing really on the offensive side here. For the Saints side, Michael Thomas returned to practice today. I think it was just in a limited fashion. And then they did get the rookie Marquez Callaway back at practice today too. So it looks like the offense is getting healthier. We can officially rule out Emmanuel Sanders in this one. He's not going to be playing as he's still on the COVID list. But it's pretty simple, straightforward for the Saints. Drew Brees, Kamara, Thomas, and Jared Cook. I'm not even really messing with some of these other guys here. So Charlie got back to us. So you got T. Higgins, Adam Thielen, Chase Claypool, CD, and Jamison Crowder. I'm probably going to rank that as – I think T. Higgins is probably – do you start 2 or 3 of these guys is the next question. But I think – the 2 of the best 3 are going to be T. Higgins and Adam Thielen, I think. I'm just curious if we're going to go back to StatMuse here. And I'm just going to, again, this is a website here called StatMuse that I like to use. I'm just going to type in Adam Thielen versus Packers, and then we're going to type in game logs. And let's see here. So we've got a lot of games against the Packers here. Last year in a game, he did go 0 for 4. I'm assuming that was with Jair Alexander on him. But in all the other games, you see 6 for 8, 110, and 2 touchdowns. That was game 1 this year. The first game of 2019, 5 for 8, 75 yards, no touchdown, but you'll take that 5 for 75, I would assume. 2018, he destroyed the Packers here. Both 100-yard days, both touchdowns. So I think the upside with Adam Thielen is too hard to ignore. So I think I'm going to safely start T. Higgins and Adam Thielen. And then as far as who to start between Claypool, CD, and Crowder, if Crowder plays, I think I would probably play Crowder just because he's the safest, kind of high floor guy. But the Ravens, the defense doesn't scare me as much in the secondary. So I think I would rank that Crowder, Claypool, and then CeeDee Lamb. The goddamn Cowboys, man. We were enjoying the CeeDee Lamb for a little bit there, but now I'm kind of holding on CeeDee Lamb. And I don't know. If it depends if it's Andy Dalton. If it's Ben DiNucci, I'm not touching. It's a 2 wide receiver league. So, yeah, man, I think I'm rolling with T. Higgins and I'm rolling with Adam Thielen. And you're going to see what the rookie receivers do on your bench, and then we'll monitor Jamison Crowder's. But I think Thielen against the Packers, he's been better than bad most times. So you don't want to miss one of those games where he goes off for 125 and a touchdown or something like that. So, and then this game here, this one's kind of like just a random occurrence here. When Thielen became the starter in it looks like 2016, that's when he kind of fully emerged here. He really hasn't. He had 1 bad game here, 2 for 24. So that would be worst case scenario. But he does more good than bad games here. So I think I'm going to trust Adam Thielen in that one, even though it's a tough matchup against Alexander. We kind of talked about the Saints and the Bears, 49ers and the Seahawks. Things to monitor in this one. What's going on with the running backs here? What's up with Chris Carson? What's up with – Chris Carson, we don't have the Thursday practice reports. What the hell? So that one I'm going to have to monitor tomorrow and see when they get these reports in there. But if you're a Chris Carson owner, I think we're going to be without him this weekend. I would assume it's going to be Carlos Hyde getting the bulk of the carries, and then maybe DJ Dallas gets mixed in there on passing downs. But pretty simple evaluation here. Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. These guys are locks. And then I'm going to continue to watch my guy Will Dissly here. Keep an eye on him. He's been playing good, getting more snaps. He might be a guy that could gain more steam as the season progresses. Yeah, man. Is that a redraft league you're talking about, Charlie? Because I CeeDee Lamb, of course, dynasty leagues, he was an easy smash play, but I think a lot of people were sleeping on how good that Cowboys offense was going to be, and then he just basically pushed Michael Gallup off of the fantasy radar. But back to the 49ers here, we do see that the Seahawks, going forward, Seattle Seahawks are still without Jamal Adams, but they allow 26 points to the quarterbacks, and they allow the most points to wide receiver at 60 points per game. 60 wide receiver points per game. So no Deebo Samuel in this one. I think if you have Brandon Ayuk or if he's available, please go get Brandon Ayuk. This is probably going to be a breakout game for Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle is going to be a smash play. And then you're probably going to see Jerick McKinnon and Jermichael Hasty kind of 50-50 split these reps. I'm not excited to get the running backs in there, but I'm very excited to get Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle in my lineups this weekend. So we got another question here. What do you think you can get for Josh Allen? You wanted to go for a team who had Dak and no backup that has Dalvin Cook. I think an Allen for Cook trade would go through. So straight up for Josh Allen, who's your backup quarterback? Did we already talk about this? I'm assuming you have Justin Herbert. Yeah, I think you have Justin Herbert as your backup. So I'd be totally cool with going forward with Herbert. And then for a running back for Josh Allen, you can ask the Dalvin Cook owner. I'm not super excited to get the Dalvin Cook. I think you might be like a guy like maybe Josh Jacobs. Maybe that guy is a little bit more interested to get rid of his running back. We're not targeting Zeke Elliott. We're not really targeting any of these Bucks and these Giants guys. Let me just look at just some other names here. If you want to maybe see what the guy with Austin Eckler is doing, see if he's interested in parting ways with Austin Eckler. You could talk to the Nick Chubb guy. He's going to be coming back as well too. You could talk to Chris Carson owner. No, I'm not really excited about that. I think the names that stick out would be like Josh Jacobs, maybe Antonio Gibson, because he's going to be getting they're on a bye this weekend. I can see Antonio Gibson getting ramped up. Jonathan Taylor, these rookie running backs that could be getting more work as the season goes on. Those are kind of the guys that I'm interested in. I mean, a guy like Kareem Hunt could be a solid RB2. I'm kind of into that. Maybe if you're into James Robinson, see if the James Robinson owner is interested. But yeah, I don't know. You kind of just gotta poke around. If you're talking to the guy with Dak, I would. So I'm assuming the guy with Dak Prescott has Dalvin Cook. I mean, it's worth a conversation if you can offer it and go from there and see what happens. I think that's the best part. So when I go to do my trades, I just ask people questions like, what position do you want? How are you feeling about this guy, that guy, that guy? And a lot of times I don't end up offering trades, but I just kind of try to gauge where a player's feelings are about their team. So we got a question here from Chase Brown. Tyler Boyd or Deontay Johnson? My two receivers are Ridley and Thomas. I'm flexing Boyd right now, and I'll start Johnson if Michael Thomas doesn't play. But if Thomas does play, would you leave Boyd in over Johnson? Yeah, man, I think you got it spot on the head. We really like the matchup for the Bengals going up against Tennessee. We're not really scared against the Titans defense. And I don't know, Deontay Johnson going up against the Ravens. I know he just had a really big game. But I mean, the Steelers have four receivers that it could be anyone's game any week. And I just think Tyler Boyd, the way he's been playing, Tyler Boyd had himself a hell of a day last weekend too. He's currently wide receiver 9, so you'd be benching a top 10 receiver. I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. And then we do see that Tyler Boyd's worst game is going to be 7 to 8 points. You can live with that. There's been a couple games where Deontay gets like a goose egg or something. But I mean, this is Tyler Boyd's third game of over 20 points. He did get a 16 and a 12 in there. So I think you hit it right on the head. So I would lean Tyler Boyd over Deontay Johnson there, and fingers crossed we'll get the Mike Thomas in there this weekend for you. So we're going on about 7:06 here. If there's any more questions, I'd take one more question. Otherwise, I think I'm going to sign off here and get ready for this Thursday night football game here. We kind of talked mostly about the things I wanted to cover here. Cowboys and Eagles, dude. Jalen Reagor is going to be playing. Really excited to see the rookie. You should check your waiver wires and see if he's available. I think he's going to be projected probably for 8 to 10 PPR points right away. It was the thumb injury, so I think his conditioning and his legs are going to be totally fine. So you could see a lot of snap counts right away for Jalen Reagor. So he's going to be a guy that really has me excited for the rest of the season. So please check your waiver wires there. And then, of course, Dallas Goedert. Everyone's probably already checked the waiver wire for Dallas Goedert. But he should be back after the bye. But the Eagles, man, a lot of good things brewing for the Eagles going up against the Cowboys. And then Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's probably going to wipe the floor with the Giants here. Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, we're going to see how that backfield shakes down here. I think you got to start Mike Evans. You're starting Gronk. I think you could probably whip out Scotty Miller and see what happens. Start the Bucs D. Antonio Brown next weekend on Sunday Night Football against the Saints. A lot of fun stuff there. Maybe Chris Godwin's back too. So we got one more question here from our guy Charlie. Do you think I should hold on to or trade Zach Ertz? I have Burton right now, and I hear that Ertz will start to click as the Philly offense starts to get healthy, but also that O-line is awful. It is awful. Hopefully you have a league that allows the IR spot, because I wouldn't mind. I think Ertz is officially on IR right now for the 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is. But I've seen leagues where Zach Ertz has just been cut outright. But it seems like we just have Trey Burton here, so it would be nice to have someone a little, maybe another guy with a little bit of punch. But if you can afford to leave him on the IR, I wouldn't mind leaving him there and holding on to him. Or if maybe you can try to flip him if you want to try to trade your Josh Allen with Zach Ertz and see what that can bring you. Maybe that might be an idea here. Maybe you can get something crazy there. So I think let's see what happens with Lamar Jackson. So, but yeah, I think I'm willing to hold on to Zach Ertz. Like we said, this offense, it's going to get better. The offensive line's getting healthier. I wouldn't mind holding on to Zach Ertz, especially if you have the IR spot. So I don't know. I think that's going to be doing it for this one. It's almost 7:10. I got to get ready for this football game. So I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. I'll be updating my start-sit charts tomorrow with one more day of practice reports. But yeah, you can always hit me up on Twitter at @thefellowKGB with questions. I do respond to YouTube comments on the video as well. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your guys' time tonight, hanging out. It's been fun answering all your questions. And I don't know, enjoy the game tonight. Let's go Teddy Bridgewater. It seems like he was one of the hot names of the chat room tonight. So yeah, enjoy the game, and we'll see you in another video. Peace.